Alright guys, so today we're going to talk about rational number word problems. So we're going to start with our first one. We have to figure out what operation is being used in each of the questions and what exactly we are adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. So in the first one it says Miss garden hose leaks 6 3/10 liters of water in a week. What is the average amount of water leaked in one day? So if we're talking about the average, we are going to try to figure out how much is leaking in one day when we know how much it's been leaked over time in a week. So for this one, we're going to divide. So we should be dividing 6 3/10 divided by 7 because it happened over 7 days, and we wanted to figure out how much it's happening per day or in one day, which is going to also be the average. So, it's talking about leaking. So this will be a negative 6 3/10 that we are dividing. Here. So remember the first one that's written. It's going to be first come, first served. So the first one written, 6 3/10, is going to go in our house, and our 7 is going to go on the outside of the house. Since our 7 is a whole number, we do not need to do any sliding, so we are just going to divide like normal. And let's go ahead and shoot our decimal through the roof so we don't forget that the decimal is going to go right there between the 6 and the 3. So 7 cannot go into 6, but it can go into 63 9 times. 9 times 7 gives you 63. When you subtract, you get 0, and we've got nothing else to bring down, so we are done. So our answer is going to be 9/10. Let's check our sign. In our original problem, we did have a negative because it was leaking. So this would be a negative, because one was negative, one was positive, and it would be negative 9/10 liters. You can also say that it leaked, which implies that negative 0 and 9/10 liters. Oops, liters. So either one of those would work. Alright, for your next one, we're talking about the stock market. So a stock market measures earnings per share of stock of different companies. On Monday, Townsend Chocolates opened at $22.31 per share. On Tuesday, it rose 27 cents per share. And Wednesday, it fell $1.12 per share. On Thursday, it fell another $1.16 per share. On Friday, it gained 10 cents per share. What was the price of share of Townsend's chocolate at the close of the stock market on Friday? So first, let's talk about rising and falling. So if anywhere where it says that the stock market rose, that would be a positive. So it's rising this much, it fell, then it fell, then it gained another, so it rose again. Okay, and it's also starting at a positive, right? The other numbers where it says that it fell, those would be negatives. Fell another. Okay, so you can really think about this two ways. It's starting at $22.31. So you could say if it rose 27, that would be a plus 27 cents. Then it fell. So you could think of falling as adding a negative, right? Because that's still going to give you, it's going to make you subtract. Oops. I'll show you the other way that you could have done this in a second. Okay. And then it fell another $1.16, so you could add another negative $1.16. And then it gained, so that would just be adding 10 cents. So that's one way you could have done it. You could have also just done 22 and 31 is what we started with. We add our 27 cents. Right here where we did plus negative, you could just put minus $1.12, and then you could again do minus 1/16, because when we get to those anyways, we'll do keep, change, which would make this adding a negative regardless. So we just did less work in the long run here. Either way works. I'm going to go ahead and continue with my first number sentence because that way we don't have to do keep, change, change. It's kind of already been done for us. Just remember that adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting the numbers. It's the same thing. All right, so let's go ahead and start. So for our first, we're going to work from left to right. So we're going to do this part first. We're starting with our first number and we're adding 27 cents. So 22, 31, add, make sure you line up your decimals here and just add like normal. So we get 8, 5, 2, 2. All right, so for the first part, we get 22 and 58 cents when we add our first two numbers. Now, if we look here, we've got our new number, and we are going to add a negative to it, which, just like we said, is the same thing as subtracting. So we've got 22.58 was our new number, and we're subtracting $1.12 from it. Again, our signs are different, so we're going to subtract the numbers. So when we do that, we get 6, 4, 1. So 21.46 would be our new number. So with our 21.46, we are going to do the next part. So here we're going to then add another negative, which is the same as, again, subtracting. So we are going to subtract, oops, fix that, subtract $1.16, which would give us 6 and 6 is 0, 4 and 1 is 3, 1 and 1 is 0, and then 2. So 20.30. Now that we've got 20.30, we are going to add that last little bit, which is our 10 cents. So $20.30 plus our 10 cents, which would give us $20.40. So to answer the question, which was what was the price of shares for Townsend's Chocolates, it would be $20.40 per share. Okay. All right, number 3 says the Discovery Channel is filming Shark Week. A giant shark is chasing a fish. It descends 5.5 feet from the surface, and then it ascends 2 3/8 feet, and then it descends 4 3/4 feet and catches its prey. At what depth should the cameraman be to film the catching of the fish? So ascending and descending. So descending is going to be negative. So we've got 2 descends here. And then ascending is actually going to be positive. So if I were to write this whole number sentence out, he starts at negative 5.5 feet. Then he ascends, so that's a plus 2 3/8. And then when he descends, remember we can put minus, or we could put plus a negative, which is the same thing. Adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting. So 4 3/4. Okay? So now we're going to just work from left to right and finish our problem. So we're going to do these two first. Our signs are different, so we're actually going to subtract those two values. So why don't you pause the video, and then once you get an answer, come back to the video and check your work. So we've got negative 5 1/2. And we are adding that to 2 3/8. So really, in the long run, we are subtracting these two numbers. And I'm going to go ahead and put a negative because I know my answer is going to be negative because the 5.5 has a higher absolute value. Before I subtract, though, I do need to find common denominators. So I'm going to make this denominator an 8 by multiplying the top and the bottom by 4. So my new fraction is 5 4/8. And we are subtracting that with 2 3/8. I'm going to bring down my negative again because remember I know it's negative because 5.5 is bigger than 2 3/8. So 5 minus 2 is 3, 4 minus 3 is 1, with my denominator still 8. All right, so now that I've got my answer negative 3 1/8, I have to go back and add negative 4 3/4. So I am adding, if I write that problem out, I've got 3 1/8 negative plus negative 4 3/4. The signs are the same, so I'm going to add those two fractions and keep my answer negative. So let me rewrite that. All right, I rewrote it so it was stacked on top of each other. I do have to find common denominators here, so I'm going to make my 4 3/4 have a denominator of 8 by multiplying the top and the bottom by 2, which would give me my new fraction of 4 6/8. And then I'm going to keep my other number 3 1/8. So I'm going to rewrite that so we can see it a little bit better. All right, so I went ahead and wrote it down here at the bottom. Again, we are actually adding these numbers because they're both negative. So 3 plus 4 would give me my whole number 7. Add my numerators, 1 and 6 would give me a numerator of 7. And then my denominator stays 8. So 7 7/8 would be the answer. It is going to stay negative because we just added two negatives together, and our units would be feet. So the answer here would be negative 7 7/8 feet. Okay, the next one, an airplane descends at a rate of 152 4/10 meters per minute. How far will it descend in 6.5 minutes? So we know how fast it will go per minute. We need to figure out how fast it will, or how far it will go after 6.5 minutes. So we are going to multiply here. Descending is going to give you negative, right? Descending, so that we would write as negative 152 4/10. And we are multiplying that by 6 1/2. Okay? Now, couple things here. We know our signs are different, so our answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put that off to the side so I don't forget. We need to convert one of these from a fraction to a decimal since we've got decimals and fractions here. I'm going to change 6 1/2. I know that 6 1/2 is really just 6 5/10. So I'm going to change that so that I have two decimals. You could change the 152.4 to a fraction, but I feel like that's a little bit more work. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply. So go ahead and pause the video, multiply, and then come back to this video to see if we got the same answer. All right, the numbers that you should have gotten are 99060. Now we just need to check our decimal. We've got one number behind the decimal place here, one number behind the decimal place here, which means we need two numbers behind the decimal place. So 1, 2. So our answer should be 990 6/10. And since we are descending, it's going to be negative. And remember, we put that negative sign off to the side because we remembered we got a negative times a positive. And the rest of our units here would be meters. So negative 990 6/10 meters per minute. Okay, or you could say that it descends 990.6 meters per minute.